Hey everyone, I finished watching the next Power Rangers episode, Reinforcements from the Future Part 2. One of my absolute favorite episodes, and right off, I noticed something I never really thought about before. The previously on announcer is back. And I was trying to remember how long has it been since we last had that previously on announcer? Like, was he like he wasn't there since in space, wasn't he? It sounds like the same guy. Was it Dave Mallow who's the... I don't remember who it is who does the previously ons. Anyway, not really that important, just a weird thing I noticed. So, summary. Circuit contacts Jen, Wes, and Eric and the other Wild Force Rangers, and he tells them that the other Rangers are going to be showing up in a time ship. So the Rangers go to the beach to meet with the time ship. Why did it land on the beach? Is that like just the default place to land the time ship? Like, I guess it's far out, like, away from people or something? Whatever. So then the Rangers all meet up on the beach, and there's a really nice little subtle thing where all the Time Force Rangers are all super happy to see each other, and then we see Eric in the background who just goes... and just gives a little salute. That's all he does, because, yeah, he doesn't have, like, emotional attachment to them like Wes does. So then the Rangers are all happy, and then Jen looks up and sees Rancic, and we see her smile go from... which is really nice. We don't get, like, a whole lot of backstory there. I'm guessing they assumed that if you're watching this, you've probably seen Time Force. Or, like, just her, like, attitude around Rancic is enough to portray, like, okay, they have some history together, even if you haven't seen Time Force. So then, uh, the Rangers and Rancic all go up to the Animarium, and oh, before that, there's a weird little thing that happens I want to talk about. Let's see. Rancic tells Jen that he genuinely wants to help, and blah blah blah, and then Cole, like, does the listen thing, then goes over to Jen. What he's saying is true. He speaks from his heart. I'll talk about that at the end. So anyway, the Rangers go up to the Animarium, and Rancic tells the Rangers some new backstory, some new retconned backstory. Okay. So in the in his past and the future, this is always a weird thing when they have a flashback to something that happens in the future. Anyway, Rancic was wandering around the mountains, and he came across these three statues, and the statues talk, and they tell him that they're orgs. So yeah, those are the three org monsters from the last episode, and they look nothing like them. So I'm guessing these were designed based on the original suits that they were planning to use, and then couldn't for whatever reason. The suits were lost in a fire or damaged in some way. So anyway, the org statues ask Rancic to free them so they can take revenge on humanity, and in return they'll give Rancic great power. And we find out here that it's these org statue monsters that gave Rancic the ability to create the bone weapons that he can pull out of his body. Huh. Again, I'll talk about that at the end. So then, let's see. Rancic finishes the story, and Jen talks to him and tells him that... How was it? We can't change the past, but we can change the future, or something. Can't remember exactly if that's what she said. Anyway, they shake hands. They're allies now, even if they're not friends. So then, we see Wes and Jen reconnect a little bit. And that's about all we get of Wes and Jen. For all the hype their relationship gets, it really doesn't go too much farther here. Like, I've heard some people say that this fixes Time Force's ending because now Jen stays in the present, but they don't really show that very well. She's not in an upcoming episode that also has Wes in it. I don't know. Whatever. Moving on. Eric and Taylor bond over shared interests. And this is a nice thing. I really like it. Shows Eric with the Quantum Defender? Quantum Blaster? What's the name of Eric's gun? I don't remember. Anyway, him and Taylor bond over their shared interest of his cool gun. And it really sucks. I really wish we could have seen the Zords. But that's one of the things with American team-ups, is usually no Zords, because they don't like shooting Zord footage over here for some reason. So then the next day, Shayla sees Master Org leading the Mute Orgs into a power plant. The Rangers go down, they split up. Danny, Max, Lucas, and Trip find a computer room, and Trip goes in to try and shut down the main reactor while the others fight off a bunch of putrids. Then meanwhile, Eric, Taylor, and Katie are fighting putrids. Jen and Alyssa are fighting putrids. Wes, Cole, and Rancic and Nadira are searching for the Mute Orgs. So they're going down this one passageway, and then they're jumped by the Mute Orgs. Mute Orgs are fighting with them for a little bit, and then the Mute Orgs all like group together and charge up like a combined attack. And then, let's see, the Rangers take cover. Rancic jumps in front of the Mute Orgs to sacrifice himself and take their attack. And then, let's see, so they shoot, and somehow he absorbs the blast or something, and somehow that destroys the mutant half of the Mute Orgs. So they shot their mutant half at him? What? How's that work? I don't know, whatever. Anyway, moving on. Trip successfully shuts down the plant's reactor, and then the Mute Orgs retreat outside, and then they suddenly stop, and we see Merrick walk out, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot, he's here. Merrick's kind of a non-character here. He shows up here, and then pretty much nowhere else in any meaningful way, unfortunately. For such an important character too, Wild Force, I feel like they really should have come up with some kind of better way to incorporate him in, or at least give him a better entrance than just, I'm here too now. So anyway, the Rangers all join with Merrick. They all morph. They defeat the Mute Orgs. Wes, Cole, and Eric have a scene where they all activate their battleizers at once. That's really cool. They go back and they find Nadira kneeling over Rancic, and you think, oh, geez, is Rancic dead? But then Nadira looks up. It's a miracle. And then Rancic stands up and he's human. With, like, no scars, no mutant arm. He doesn't have his mask anymore. Okay. Alright then. Weird. Okay, moving on. The Rangers, Rancic, and Adira join Shayla and Circuit because Circuit's here now too. Okay. I would love to see what in the world were Shayla and Circuit talking about while the Rangers were off doing whatever. Let's see, Shayla and Circuit set up a little picnic. I would have loved to see what were they talking about? What were they doing? So anyway, everybody has fun while Shayla's nature song plays in the background, and there's just so much fun character interaction here. It's like easily one of my favorite parts in all of Power Rangers of any episode and any season. This is like my favorite part of anything, and it's definitely the part that I've rewatched more than probably any other episode. Like, I think I've just watched this one picnic scene more than this actual episode, and I watched this episode a lot. So anyway, also the addition of the nature song in the background is really cool. It's just a fun little montage thing. There's a bunch of individual things going on here that are so much fun, and I love to see all of it. It's the kind of thing that, like, I really wish that picnic scene from the end had been a thing that had continued on for other team-ups. Not that we have that many other, like, full team-ups. We have, let's see, Thunderstorm, Wormhole, um, yeah, that was about it for, like, full team-ups, like, that made sense, like, consecutive seasons teaming up. Not like in Grid Connection and the Beast Morpher team-ups where they teamed up with Dino Charge and completely skipped over Ninja Steel. Whatever. Moving on. So anyway, this is one of my favorite episodes. Rarely will Power Rangers ever even get close to reaching this point of, like, enjoyment for me. even as a kid, like seeing this was just completely mind blowing. I wasn't super into Wild Force when I was a kid, but I was super into Time Force, and it was just so cool to see these characters back and interacting with a new team, and like their personalities are all intact. That's amazing, and something that like deserves to be said now after seeing some of the newer team ups where they kind of just forget who people were. They just kind of have them stand around. They give them a few lines just so that they can say, "Hey, look, we care. We gave them a line." Yeah. Anyway, almost everything in this episode, this two-parter, is perfectly done, and it all comes together so well. And there's really like the few problems I have with it are just extremely minor nitpicks or things that really don't bother me at all, or or at least not as much as they would bother other people. Or there's some things that don't bother other people that do bother me a little bit. Whatever. Moving on. Let's see. Merrick's inclusion is just weird. Kind of wonder why he didn't join the picnic at the end. There's a behind the scenes picture of him with the other Rangers, like at the picnic, but I don't think he's actually there in the show, is he? Now I don't remember. I'll have to watch it again. So, oh yeah, that one weird thing at the beginning where Rancic is talking to Jen and Cole does that like listen to his heart thing is interpreted in a weird way here. Early on in the series, Cole had that ability to like be able to like sense the heartbeat of like nature and animals or whatever. And it was a plot point because like he tries to sense the heart of the org and he can't hear anything because the orgs don't have hearts. And it was literally supposed to be he can hear their heartbeat, but here he's hearing like the metaphorical, is that the right word? The like symbolic heart that Rancic is genuine with his feelings. It's a really weird thing, but it's not that big of a deal. It zips right on by, so I don't really care about it. Rancic's story, when he tells the Rangers about his backstory, is a cool and clever way to tie the two seasons together. I love when they do stuff like this, when it's done well. um, let's see. The one thing that I'm really not a fan of is the bone weapon ability thing coming from the mute orgs instead of just being Rancic's own natural mutant ability. I don't really know why that had to be added. I don't know. It's like not a bad retcon. It's just kind of awkward because it wasn't really necessary. So whatever. The Mutorg statues, oh yeah, like I said earlier, they don't look anything like what their final forms are, so I'm guessing they were supposed to look like the Gao Ranger Org generals or whatever from the Gao Ranger movie that they didn't end up using the suits for. Oh yeah, one of the things I was thinking about when rewatching this episode was Jen and Wes's relationship. We see them reconnect a tiny bit here, but there's nothing really big. And I was thinking that they were probably planning to do more in the future because the next season was planned to have like more like after Wild Force, they planned to have a lot more continuity and like callbacks to things in the past. And so yeah, I'm guessing this was more of like setting the seeds for something later because that's something that the writer Emmett Bomick liked to do, especially in Wild Force. There was a lot of like setting the seeds for things to come up later, but then none of that happened because Disney bought the series and moved to production out of the US, and so any plans for like strong continuity were out the window. Let's see. One of the interesting things is that Jen and Wes do get attention later on, but not in the show, but in other parts of the Power Rangers franchise. Jen makes an appearance in Hyperforce, and I think they establish a little bit more about her and Wes being together there. I don't know for sure because I haven't watched much of Hyperforce. The episodes are like 3 hours long. I work full time. I don't have time to watch people play a board game for 3 hours. Sorry. The Boom comics also, I guess, had their own versions of Jen and Wes, and they show them a little bit. There's that graphic novel, Sins of the Future, that shows a little bit of them together. Let's see, moving on. Rancic turning human is weird. it's handled well, but I don't know. I'm not a big fan of this. I really don't like when they do these transformation things. Like, at least here, it kind of feels right. Like, it's towards the end of Rancic's story. I can't imagine Rancic coming back in a big way after this. Like, even if he hadn't turned human, and Time Force, if it stayed in the US and Time Force had continued to make appearances in Power Rangers, I don't think there would have been much for Rancic left, like, in his story to do. He might, like, make an appearance here and there and be like, hey, I'll fight alongside the Time Force Rangers now. Um, mm. I don't know. At the time, it didn't really bother me as much as it does now after it was in Beast Morphers where we had whoops Chaku and he turns human or well, he's already human, he just has like a cyborg part of his body and he's all boo-hoo about oh my family won't love me because I look like this. And at the end he turns normal and he's like, well, even if I hadn't turned normal, my family still would have loved me for me. Eh, whatever. Moving on. Or Vernon Wells is a way more like charismatic and just better actor with way more presence than the guy who played freaking Chaku. Moving on. The final fight's really. Oh yeah, one of the things I wondered about. Now that Rancic's human, does he have to take serum anymore? Or did they develop like a special thing so that he doesn't have to take it back in Time Force? I don't remember. I don't think they did. I think he still would have had to take the serum. Oh well, no worries now, he's human. He probably doesn't need to take it. That bite mark isn't there on his neck anymore. So the final fight's really cool. I love seeing all three of the battleizers that are available activated at once. None of the other Rangers have, like, any power-up armor or anything, like, in Lightspeed, or Time for Lightspeed. Back in Time Force and the Lightspeed team-up, we see all the Rangers who had, like, special armor activate the armor at once. That was a really cool thing. It's something that I'm hoping that they... or I seem to remember they do keep it sometimes in future team-ups, like in, I think in Thunderstorm, both Shane and Connor activate their own battleizers. Can't remember if it happens in SPD's team-ups. Let's see. In Overdrive, Adam uses the Defender Vest, which is the current team's, like, power-up. Actually, that would be kind of interesting to see somebody use somebody else's power-up. I don't think that's happened yet, has it? Except for that one Overdrive episode. Anyway, moving on. Um, one of the things that I really wanted to talk about, the ending to this episode, the picnic scene, and especially the little scene at the end, the very end, where Wes and Cole are having a little race together. That comes straight from the Ginga Man versus Mega Ranger movie. I remember when I first watched that movie, I was like, holy crap, that's where that picnic and race scene came from. I had no idea. It was so neat. And it's weird because Wild Force takes so much like inspiration from Lost Galaxy and seemingly things from Ginga Man. In fact, like plot lines and some of the characters are a lot more similar to things in Ginga Man than in Gow Ranger. It's really interesting, and I'm wondering why that was. I'm wondering if maybe some of the people behind the scenes had been working on the show in Lost Galaxy. There were things that they saw in Sentai that they wanted to do, and they either like ran out of time, they weren't able to do it right, or maybe they were told no. But here was their chance to finally put in the things that they wanted to put in. Um, or maybe this was originally supposed to be the ending to the In Space team up. Huh. Would have been kind of awkward, I think, to have kept that there. Anyway, moving on again. All the stuff that goes on in the picnic is really nice. Let's see, Danny have an arm wrestling match with Katie. That's really cool. And I like that Katie like immediately beats Danny. That's really funny. We still don't get any confirmation on whether or not like Katie was genetically enhanced. Because that was a thing they talked about in Time Force, was that in the future people are genetically enhanced. And I'm wondering, was her strength from that? Like, is it natural? If it's natural, and that's pretty cool that she was able to beat Danny. Let's see, Eric and Taylor, there's some little playful teasing between them, teasing a relationship starting between them. I'm wondering if that would have gone anywhere if Power Rangers had continued like shooting in the US. One of the things I like, Max tries to offer flowers to Nadira, and Rancic comes over, and then Max is like, Rancic, and it kind of reminds me of Nadira's dream date, which leads right into a direct reference to that episode. Lucas comes over and offers an arm to Nadira. They go off, and they're a couple now, just like in Nadira's dream date, which is a cute little callback. I love that, especially because Nadira's dream date was one of my favorite episodes. And then, let's see. So yeah, I freaking love this episode. Don't really know what else to say about it though. I'm kind of out of stuff to talk about. So yeah, next time it's back to like normal episodes. Let's see, the next time on, we go back to following Cole's story with his parents and what their ties to Master Org are. So that'll be really fun. We got some cool episodes coming up of Wild Force. I'm really looking forward to that. Um, I don't really know what else to say, so I guess I'll end it here. Hope you enjoyed this. See ya.